It's time to learn some more entrepreneurial lessons, and I'm very honored that I will soon be joined here in my little talk show setting by one of the co-founders of PicNic, a true disruptor in the supermarket industry. But before we're going to listen to Frederik Nieuwenhuys, please have a look at how PicNic actually works. We are back live from our studio loft here at the virtual Entrepreneurship Day Delft in the talk show setting, where I will talk to one of the seasoned entrepreneurs that we have today and learn from them what their most important lessons are. And we are live. As you see, I have my eyes on the chat as well. So if you have a question somewhere in the next 20 minutes, make sure you submit it. Because my guest here also is a graduate from Delft, 1994. Started his career in strategy consultancy first, then leaped into entrepreneurship as the CTO and founder of Fredhopper, which was all about managing or software for retailers to manage their digital shelves. But then in 2015, you joined Michiel Muller on this adventure to really disrupt the supermarket industry.
Yeah, actually, Michiel joined us.
Exactly, Michiel joined you. Well, you teamed up.
Doesn't matter. We teamed up.
You teamed up together to
team.
disrupt the supermarket industry. Frederik Nieuwenhuys, welcome.
Thank you, and pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a great honor to have you with us. Perhaps some of our viewers are customers of PicNic here in Delft?
Could be, yes. We operate in Delft and another 120 cities in the Netherlands, and also many cities in Germany by now, in North Rhine-Westphalia.
And that sounds like a lot, yet the situation with PicNic is that actually a lot more people want to become a customer of PicNic, and you do not serve them yet. And that's one of the things we'll touch on in this conversation. What is it like if the demand for your company is so large that you actually cannot or do not want to serve them all? But let's first go back to 2015. Can you describe that moment when you teamed up, I won't say who joined who, and said, let's step in, let's revolutionize this supermarket business?
So this idea came not from one day to another. I had a software business before Fredhopper. We were selling software into online retailers. So after we sold that 2010, we wanted to become an online shopkeeper in something, and we looked for opportunities. Shoes or toys or something else. And at some point we thought, hey, how about groceries? Because groceries, food online is very small, non-food very big. And we started preparing this venture 2012 already. So we actually took a lot of time, and we also had time on our hands. And then at 2015, we launched. And the 6th of August 2015 was a big day because we made a PR announcement that we would start a supermarket. We'd been quietly piloting our service around Amersfoort. And then the 6th of August 2015, we got a lot of publicity. Many people all over the country started downloading the app. And that's the first time when we felt this has potential. We're onto something here.
Interesting. So you say the origination story is actually from we wanted to do something in online retail and then we picked the market. Why the grocery market? Why was that so interesting?
Well, the grocery market is half of total retail. So 50% is food, 50% non-food. And by that time, many non-food categories, books, electronics, toys, lighting, were all significantly online. But food was only let's say 1%, 1.5%. And so we started looking for why that was and also trying to find solutions why consumers were not buying groceries online. And that resulted into the PicNic proposition, the offering and the brand.
And why at the time weren't you intimidated by all these big grocery brands, Ahold, Jumbo, who have that huge power, the distribution network? Why were you so brave to actually dive in that big pool of sharks?
Well, it is indeed true. So there's massive, let's say, barriers to entry in this world that we had to solve because you need skill for to get good buying conditions, etc. But for example, we did not start in the entire country. We just started in one neighborhood in one city, in Amersfoort, in Vathorst, and then later on Amersfoort and Soest and Leusden, and so city by city, and we're still doing that. And so some of these let's say, bottlenecks we resolved. We were also encouraged by the fact that in this space of online retail, whether it's Bol or Amazon or Zalando, all of the leading players around the world are all new kids on the block, or at some point they were new kids on the block. And so you see that traditional retailers hardly have ever had the skills and the power to get their act together in this online space. And that encouraged us and say, well, maybe we can do so.
Exactly. So you say we started small, we started in Amersfoort, but then in that summer of 2015, we got very famous. Everybody started to download that app, yet they couldn't be served.
And things went crazy. And this is also why we had to start overnight that wait list.
Exactly.
And so we had something
the
like...
wait list, for those viewers who don't know, PicNic is famous for the waiting list. Your customers are actually on a waiting list.
So there's a couple of 100,000 people following the COVID developments that are on our wait list. And our challenge, of course, is to build capacity as fast as we can. And by that time, we had 4 of such vehicles. And so we required another 2025, which we had to order fast and get on our hands, etc. And so we have had many such situations that at some point you're blocked by something and it seems you cannot move on. And this is where some of the big lessons, I think, in entrepreneurship come into play.
Please share.
How you deal with this. So I believe that some of the questions asked were about, how do you deal with if you're bottlenecked?
Yeah.
And of course you can do debottlenecking. You can read the goal of Goldratt. I'm sure that many people know that. But
and that is very structurally describe your process, capacities, and then enlarge the smallest chain.
There's a far bigger, let's say, I think a far bigger topic to it around, let's say, entrepreneurship and how you get going and how you move from one to the next milestone and what that takes. And a big thing is audacity. Yeah? So we had the audacity to position ourselves as we're going to do this. We were all over the news at that time. We had entrepreneurial experience. So all of the 3-4 founders had founded and run businesses before. And that helped us because the diversity of things we had to kind of get right was very broad. But this element of audacity of saying we're going to make a big company and not a small company. If you're building a company, you might as well build a big one. If you buy a company, you might as well buy a big one because it's equally hard work.
Yeah,
and so
but that is something
why go for the small? Why go for the small opportunity?
Yeah,
and this requires, let's say, confidence, and you enter, let's say, new waters, and you need to find out.
Yeah, but this is an important lesson that I think you could all have learned only because you had previous companies, right? Which grew, and then you learned, this is actually the same.
So our software business was fantastic. It was a niche. We operated 25 countries, but it actually, total addressable market was relatively small. So next company, we chose a big one.
Why not go big? Exactly. So you say the audacity to dream big and fit that future image is one of the things you needed to overcome.
So you get going, and after a year or so, we had some traction. We had 1 or 2 hubs in the Netherlands, and then we decided for ourselves, let's go to Germany. Let's open Germany. So that has been, I think, one of the most audacious things that we have done. So we have not waited. We have not taken some time to organize things properly, and we were like half organized. The team was half, in place, and we still decided to go to Germany. And once we were live in Germany and we were an international player, then we could tell ourselves we are into this international game. So this is not about the Dutch market. This is about bigger markets. And so that also helped us, get the courage together to move on again.
So you say the fact that you dared to move international actually had a reflection on your own organization?
Yes, because it gave everybody the trust. Currently we are in the final phases of building a huge robotized fulfillment center in the distribution center in Utrecht. And this is going to be the most highly automated fulfillment center ever built in the world for this particular purpose. Online groceries, a jar of peanut butter, a banana and a tomato. And so we are going all the way in terms of automation, and we've prepared it well, but it's also taken a lot of courage to take that step. Yeah, we're going to do this, and it requires a lot of extra cash and money for CapEx, but still, after careful consideration, proper studies, we do take the big step.
Exactly. So it's dream big, it's there, the flexibility. How about scaling up so fast? What are your lessons there? Because if there's 100,000 people on your waiting list, by the way, do you consider that a luxury or a problem?
Well, we turned, I think, a problem into an asset in the sense that...
Because there was a problem at first.
At first, you know, and we've always had those waiting lists. At some point, we were afraid that the waiting list would be empty and no further demand, but it has never been the case so far. So by now, we have a very good view about if we give people a present on the waiting list, if we make them wait 10 or 15 or 21 days, what the best conversion rates are. Now, COVID, in that sense, so we made it into
for
a feature,
anyone who is struggling to find their clients. This sounds ridiculous.
And COVID,
we make them wait 21 days, 15.
And COVID has, of course, grown the wait list immensely. Because a lot of people have started to buy their groceries online. And so our challenge now, for example, is to convince somebody who's been on the wait list for 6 or 9 months to say, hey, we're still alive, we're still here. It's now your turn. Can you please, place your first order, and can we help you, etc.
Is your competition jumping in and trying to eat from your waiting list, or what do you see happening there?
Well, up to COVID, I think we were largely growing the market ourselves. As consumers have so massively jumped onto online groceries, we also see our competition, and this is not just in the Netherlands, but also in Germany and in France and the UK, specifically existing retailers, also increasing their capacities.
Exactly. Should we take a few audience questions? Because they're live with us, they're submitting questions. Let's first do a short one. Mark Meijhuis, last one coming in just a few seconds ago. How many hours do you work per week?
That's a good question. So life has been pretty hectic over the last 5 years. In these COVID times, I work about, 50, 60 hours a week or so, in that range. And because it's so easy to have evening calls, etc., because a lot of it's via Zoom. So last night I was on a call with a robotics company from the West Coast in the US, and you spend easily 2 hours. A good 2 hours spent. On the other hand, I also take time off. I do quite a bit of sports, so I take my bike.
You mean right now when we all work
also
remotely?
I take my bike, Wednesday afternoon. But equally easy, Saturday or Sunday morning at 7 or 8, I'm doing some work. So
exactly.
Let's say private and professional life kind of mixes up for me quite easily, and I'm quite fine with that.
How do you feel about that?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's okay. You've organized that.
And it's never out of my mind anyways.
Exactly. Yeah, that's part of being an entrepreneur. You're always thinking about it, even when you sleep, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Let me take another question from Gijs van Holthoon. He's writing, I introduced you. I said you started your career at a strategy consultant, OC&C. Hype also did that. He says, is it a coincidence that so many entrepreneurs start their career in the strategy consultancy? What do you think?
Strategy consulting is a good training for problem solving, data analysis, structured writing, so presentation. All of those core skills are really taught well in these consulting firms in the first 2, 3, 4 years of your career. So that is a good, let's say, stepping stone. I would say there is a clear separation between consultants who have a more kind of abstract interest, and then the other part that is maybe more pragmatic. Many of the let's say the Delft grown educated consultants are quite pragmatic. We have in PicNic over 100 engineers from Delft. Some of them are amongst the brightest, and they work on very abstract AI problems. They work on last mile distribution problems. Others are real kind of people leaders, and they work in our operations. They get up at 5, and they're 28, and they lead 400 people. So there is a I would say there is a big diversity of the people who are coming out of university, and and coming into PicNic.
What would you say is another key difference between being an entrepreneur or being entrepreneurial versus indeed starting a career as a consultant or in a corporate setting?
You take personal risk. When I started my first business, I was very well paid. I had a beautiful car, and I was maybe about to become a partner at some point in this firm and earn a lot of money, or even more money. And I took the risk of doing it. And many of my friends said to me, what are you doing? You have this nice career path in front of you. And then I started this small company, which I had even a hard time explaining what we were going to do, because frankly, we had good energy, but kind of half a plan. PicNic had a whole plan, by the way. Yeah. And so then entrepreneurial life is also not always that sexy, because you just put your head down and get to work. And there's a lot of work to be done always. And kind of, I think that mentality is important. And I see that we attract people who are not afraid. So we value, let's say, talent over experience. We have very, very few people in PicNic with a specific dedicated experience that they also execute day in, day out. And so we're always tackling new topics and new challenges. And so you cannot be afraid of tackling those topics. Exactly. So fear is a bad advisor here.
Exactly. And when you mention you're always putting your head down and work, they say the same thing about strategy and consultancy, especially early in your career. So does it feel different when you're doing it for your own company?
Yeah, it's completely different. It's your own business. I think also the balance of work and fun. Unfortunately, our bar is closed for a while now, but we are looking forward to the day it opens, and then you'll find.
You say our bar, the PicNic bar.
So we have a bar. We have a nice bar in the PicNic central office. Where we cater easily for 250 people. And I look forward to the day opening. I hope that's going to be soon.
Your eyes are twinkling when you talk about it. There's actually quite some questions related to that topic. When you mentioned I work 50, 60 hours a week, I see, how do you balance that with family life? What do you do to relax when you try to create the energy?
As said, I do quite some sports. So I've been doing a lot of triathlon. So if you want, you can easily spend 20 hours a week on that. But cycling, running, swimming. I have, and the balancing with the family is always difficult. I do it evenings, I do it also within the week, in the weekends. I have 1 kid at home and 2 in university. So life at home, so I actually have more time. It would have been more difficult for me to do so if your kids are 2 to 5 years old or something. Okay. And you take them to soccer every Saturday morning, or Sunday you go swimming lessons, etc. So I also have more time on my hands than I had maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, you have a family life that fits with working hard.
That fits,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Final question. If you are back in Delft now, if you, looking back at this long career, could give Frederik in 1994 one advice, what would it be?
Well, maybe I was thinking about the drinking question.
Yeah.
And
more or less.
I'm not sure if I was in the 3rd or 4th category, but when I get to some student houses in Delft, there's always beers all over the place. So apparently that has not, let's say, changed a lot. But if you really feel you want to be entrepreneurial now, get started now. Okay. Because there's sufficient brains, and then make sure you surround yourself with people that can mentor you, teach you, and help you over time. I did not have the courage to do so when I was 25. I started Frederik when I was, I think, 32 or so. I had worked at OCNC, I'd gone to INSEAD, so I had proper training in education, and only then I started. And so...
in hindsight, you say...
Usually it's better to start earlier than later.
Nice.
Because every day not done is a missed day, a missed opportunity.
Yeah, so then we get back to the theme of this event today, don't stay down, start up, right? As soon as possible.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Frederik Nieuwenhuys, for joining us and sharing your lessons with us today. Thank you.